I found them the night before our wedding, photos tucked away in the hidden folder on her iPad, like a ticking bomb waiting for me to trip over it. I wasn't even looking for anything, just tapping around while it charged, bored and restless, trying to quiet the noise in my head. Photos from the girls' trip she swore was just her and her mom, getting away for a little pre-wedding bonding. Except her mom wasn't in a single one. And the guy she was wrapped around in half of them? Yeah, that was her ex-fiancé. The one she promised she'd left behind years ago. The one I never asked too many questions about, because she made me believe there was nothing left to wonder. My name's Evan. I'm 33. And what you need to know about me is this. I don't snoop. I don't pry. I trust the people I love, sometimes longer than I should. But that night, the night before I was supposed to promise forever, something made me open her iPad. Something made me look. Maybe it was the way she'd been distant all week. Maybe it was the fact that her mom never answered my texts when I tried to send a bottle of wine to their hotel. Maybe it was just a gut feeling, the kind you ignore until it's screaming so loud you can't hear anything else. The first photo didn't even register at first. Just a shot of her on a balcony, laughing, wine glass in hand. Beautiful. Alive. The way she used to laugh with me. But then the second photo. Her sitting at a beach bar, shoulder to shoulder with a guy, his arm draped over the back of her chair. Her hand, not on him, but not away from him either. Too familiar. Too easy. And his face, even grainy and half-cropped, was burned into my memory. Because a year into dating her, we ran into him at a bar once. She froze. He nodded stiffly. I asked who he was when we got home, and she said, nobody. Just someone I used to know. Later, when she finally told me the truth, she said he'd broken her heart so bad she couldn't even stand to think about him. I believed her. Because that's what you do when you're planning a life with someone. You believe them. You bet your future on their word. And now? Now I sat there alone, staring at 100 tiny betrayals frozen in pixels. Sun-drenched selfies. Drinks clinking at sunset. Her in a bikini I'd never seen before, perched on the back of his rented scooter, hair wild in the wind. Her smile in those photos wasn't forced. Wasn't awkward. It was real. Carefree in a way she hadn't been with me for months. My first instinct was denial. Maybe there's an explanation. Maybe he just happened to be there. Maybe these are old photos she forgot to delete. Except the date stamps were clear. 2 weeks ago, while I was picking out cufflinks and rehearsal dinner menus. While she was telling me she missed me. While her mother's number was sending me cheerful updates about how much fun they were having. I sat there on the edge of the bed, holding her iPad like it might bite me, feeling the bottom drop out of my chest. She wasn't just lying about the trip. She was lying about who she was with. And worse, she was lying about what she still felt for him. Because you don't take photos like that, intimate, casual, easy, unless some part of you still belongs to that person. You don't smile like that if you're just catching up. You don't look at someone like that unless you never really stopped. I should have confronted her right then. Should have walked down the hall to the guest room where she was sleeping, the whole, not seeing each other before the wedding thing, and demanded answers. But I didn't. I sat there for a long, long time instead, thinking about how we met, thinking about how she cried when I proposed, thinking about the vows I'd written, stupid, hopeful words about trust and partnership and forever, thinking about the guests already flying in, the money spent, the promises made, the life we were supposed to start in less than 12 hours. And under all of that, a heavier, colder truth. I didn't know this woman. Not the way I thought I did. Maybe I never had. I closed the iPad, set it down carefully, stared at the dark screen like it might blink and change the story. But it didn't. The story was already written. And tomorrow, there wasn't going to be a wedding. There was only going to be fallout. And maybe, if I was lucky, there would still be enough of me left standing on the other side. I didn't sleep that night. Didn't even try. I just sat there in the dark, the iPad on the nightstand like a loaded gun, the minutes bleeding into hours while the world outside slept easy. At around 4 a.m., I got up, made a pot of coffee I didn't want, stared at my suit hanging on the door, pressed my thumb against the knot forming behind my ribs, trying to breathe through it. We were supposed to be married in 8 hours. Supposed to say forever in front of everyone we loved. And here I was, drinking burnt coffee and wondering if she'd even blink when the truth exploded. Around 7, my best man, Kyle, showed up, banging on the door with 2 breakfast sandwiches and a stupid grin. Wake up, dead man walking. He joked through the door. I let him in. He didn't notice right away. Or maybe he did, and he just wasn't ready to name it yet. I sat at the kitchen table, hands wrapped around a cup I hadn't touched. Cal tore into his sandwich, started talking about the plans for the morning photos, limo, last-minute nerves. Finally, he caught the look on my face. "Dude," he said, slowing down. "What's going on?" I slid the iPad across the table. Didn't say a word. He tapped it open, flicked through the photos. By the third one, he stopped, sat back, blew out a slow, low whistle. "No way," he muttered. I just stared at him, waiting, hoping for something. Some excuse I hadn't thought of. Some loophole in the evidence. But Kyle was silent. After a minute, he rubbed his face hard and muttered, "Jesus, Evan." I nodded once. That's about what it felt like. We sat there for a long time. No plans. No jokes. Just the ugly truth breathing between us. Finally, Kyle asked, "What do you want to do?" I shook my head. "I don't know." Because what's the play? Confront her now, hours before the wedding? Blow everything up in private, at least spare her some public humiliation? Or let it happen the way it deserved, in front of the altar, in front of everyone? Make her look me in the eye while the lie burned down around us. Both roads were hell. Different flavors, same destination. Kyle leaned forward. "You want me to call it off for you?" he asked. "I'll handle it. Make something up. We can shut it down before the crowd even shows." I almost said yes. Almost handed him the grenade and stepped away clean. But this wasn't his mess. It was mine. And if there was one thing I still had left, it was the right to decide how it ended. "I'm going to the venue," I said finally. Kyle blinked. "Dude, are you serious?" I nodded. "I need to see your face." The ride to the venue was the longest 30 minutes of my life. Every mile was a countdown. Every second tightened the knot behind my ribs until I could barely breathe. The place looked beautiful when we pulled up. White chairs lined up neatly in rows, flowers draped over a wooden arch, tables set with glassware that sparkled in the early sun. It looked like the life we were supposed to start. The life she sold me. Kyle stayed close. Didn't push. Just stood there like a wall I could lean on if I needed. The bridal suite was at the end of a long hallway. I knocked once. Heard shuffling inside. The door cracked open, and there she was, my almost wife, glowing in her robe, hair half-pinned, makeup half-done. She smiled when she saw me. Big. Genuine. Like nothing was wrong. Like we were still the couple everyone envied. I wanted to believe that smile. God, I wanted to believe it. But all I could see were the photos burned into the back of my skull. Him. Her. The life she never really let go of. She opened the door wider, frowning slightly. "Baby, what's wrong?" she asked. I just looked at her. Really looked. At the woman I thought I was marrying. At the woman I didn't know at all. And with a voice that barely felt like my own, I said, "We need to talk." She closed the door behind her softly, like we were conspirators sneaking away from the party we were about to ruin. "Evan, what's going on?" she asked again, softer this time. I didn't answer right away. Just pulled out the iPad from under my jacket. Her eyes flicked to it. Froze. That tiny hesitation told me more than anything she was about to say. I tapped it awake. Opened the hidden album. Handed it to her without a word. She took it, hands trembling just enough for me to notice. And when her thumb slid over the screen, her whole face changed. Not shock. Not confusion. Recognition. Guilt. It punched the air out of the room. She stared at the photos for a long time. Long enough that the pounding of my heart drowned out everything else. Finally, she set the iPad down gently on a side table, like the evidence might shatter if she touched it wrong. Her eyes found mine. And for the first time since this whole nightmare started, she didn't bother lying. "It wasn't supposed to happen," she whispered. I tried to keep it friendly. I swear. I told myself it was just a drink, just a dinner. But then, it got away from me. I laughed sharp, humorless. "That's it. That's what you've got." Tears welled up in her eyes. Big, silent, manipulative. I didn't move toward her. Didn't offer comfort. Because whatever we had built was already burning. She wiped at her eyes, trying to catch her breath. "He showed up," she said. "It wasn't planned. I swear. He was at the same resort. His family. It was just supposed to be a coincidence." "A coincidence?" I echoed, dead inside. She nodded frantically. "I was with my mom. I swear, at first. But when we bumped into him, I didn't know how to say no." "You didn't know how to say no to what?" I asked, voice calm and cold. "The dinners," she whispered. "The drinks. The talking. She choked off the last part. The part that mattered. The part she didn't want to say out loud. But I knew. We both did. You slept with him, I said. Not a question. A statement. A blade between us. She flinched. Silent confirmation. I leaned back against the wall, suddenly exhausted. You didn't even have the guts to call it off, I said. You just planned to marry me anyway? She covered her face with her hands. I was scared, she sobbed. I love you, Evan. I do. It didn't mean anything. It was a mistake. I shook my head. Slow. Final. No, I said. A mistake is spilling coffee on your shirt. A mistake is missing a flight. What you did, that was a choice. She sobbed harder, sliding down the wall into a crumpled heap on the floor. For a second, just a second, I almost pitied her. Almost. But pity doesn't build a marriage. And betrayal sure as hell doesn't either. Cal knocked once on the door. I opened it halfway. He saw her on the floor. Saw me standing there with the dead look in my eyes. Said nothing. Just nodded once, grim and sure. You ready? He asked. I didn't hesitate. Yeah, I said. We didn't hold a ceremony. Didn't gather the guests. Didn't explain. Cal went to the mic. Announced in a steady voice that the wedding would not be taking place today. No questions. No further information. Just a quiet, merciful end. People gasped. Murmured. Some stormed out angry. Some sat there stunned. But it didn't matter. Because the truth was out. And the life I thought I was walking into? It was already gone. Afterward, while the venue cleared out, I sat on the curb outside. Still in my suit. Tie loosened. Hands dangling between my knees. Cal sat next to me. He handed me a flask. I didn't ask what was in it. Just drank. It burned going down. Good. Reminded me I was still alive. You did the right thing, he said after a while. I didn't answer. Because it didn't feel like the right thing. It felt like I had set fire to every good memory and stood there watching it burn. But somewhere deep down, under the ash and wreckage, I knew. Better now than 10 years from now. Better broken at the altar than broken in a lawyer's office. Better alone than betrayed. I woke up the next morning still in my suit. Wrinkled. Stinking of smoke and whiskey. The hotel room was dark except for the slice of sunlight creeping across the floor like it was afraid to touch me. For a minute, I just lay there. Breathing. Remembering. Wishing I could forget. The text started around 8 a.m. First from my parents. Then from her parents. Then from mutual friends who just wanted to make sure I was okay. I didn't answer any of them. I didn't owe anyone an explanation, not yet. Maybe not ever. Cal showed up around 9. Didn't knock. Just used the key card they'd given the wedding party. He walked in carrying 2 cups of coffee and a brown paper bag that smelled like bacon. Get up, you miserable bastard, he said. I groaned. He tossed a cup onto the nightstand and dropped the bag onto my chest. Eat, he ordered. Not hungry. Don't care. I peeled the bag open anyway. Because he was right. You don't heal on an empty stomach. Over greasy breakfast sandwiches and bitter coffee, Cal filled me in. She left town. That same night. Packed a bag. Got on a plane back to her parents' place 3 states away. I didn't ask if she left me a note. I didn't want one. Some things don't deserve a goodbye. The venue had refunded part of the cost, out of sympathy. Most of the guests had gone home by now. A few were still around, gossiping over bottomless mimosas in hotel lounges. But the wedding, the life I almost built, was dead and buried. All that was left was me. And a question I couldn't shake. How did I miss it? How did I stand there, night after night, planning a future with someone who still had one foot in the past? Cal answered it without me even asking. You didn't miss it, he said. You trusted her. That's not weakness. That's love. I stared at him, hollow. It feels like stupidity. He shrugged. Sometimes it's both. I cracked a bitter smile. Because wasn't that the truth? That afternoon, I checked out of the hotel. Packed the few things I'd brought. Left the wedding suit hanging in the closet. Let someone else throw it away. Or donate it. Or burn it. I didn't care. I didn't want it following me home like a ghost. Cal drove me back to my apartment. Neither of us said much. The world outside the car window felt too bright, too loud, like it didn't know how to be respectful to the dead. When we pulled up, he killed the engine but didn't move. You're not gonna fall apart, are you? He asked. I thought about it. Falling apart sounded easy. Quitting sounded easier. But then I remembered her face when I handed her the iPad. The way she didn't even fight for me. The way she let the truth break us without even trying to hold it together. And some stubborn, angry piece of me whispered, you survived worse than this. You survive her too. I turned to Kyle. No, I said. I'm not. He grinned. Good. 'Cause I was gonna drag your sorry ass to the bar either way. That night, we went out. Just the two of us. No engagement party. No rehearsal dinner. No speeches about love and forever. Just beer, pool tables, and the slow, gritty work of clawing my way back to something that felt like myself. People gave me space. The ones who knew nodded in quiet sympathy. The ones who didn't just thought I was another guy drinking away a bad night. Both were right. Around midnight, after a few too many rounds, Kyle slapped a hand on my shoulder. "You know what the best part is?" he said, half drunk but sharp enough. "What?" "You're free." I blinked at him. "Free?" "Yeah," he said, grinning. "Free to find someone who actually shows up for you. Who doesn't make you compete with the damn past." I laughed. Really laughed. The sound rusty but real. Because somehow, somewhere under the hurt, under the wreckage, I knew he was right. I was free. Not broken. Not ruined. Free. And whatever came next, it was mine to build. No lies. No shadows. Just me. And for the first time in a long, long time, that sounded like enough. 3 weeks later, I was almost starting to feel human again. Work kept me busy. Early mornings, late nights, projects, and deadlines and long hours that didn't leave a lot of room for memories. Kyle kept dragging me out on weekends, 2 baseball games, bad diners at 2 a.m., even a disastrous blind date or 2 just to get me to laugh again. Piece by piece, I was building something new. No wedding. No wife. But also, no lies. And that counted for more than I could have imagined. I was sitting on my balcony one Sunday afternoon, beer in hand, feet up on the railing, when my phone buzzed on the table next to me. Blocked number. I stared at it. Something low and cold slid down my spine. I knew. Before I even answered, I knew. Still, like an idiot, I picked up. "Hello." Silence. Then a breath. Then her voice. "Hi, Evan." It was like being punched in the gut and dragged backward through time all at once. I didn't say anything. Didn't give her an inch. She faltered. "I just wanted to say I'm sorry." I waited. Let her fill the empty space she'd made. "I wasn't fair to you," she said. "I wasn't ready. I thought I was, but I wasn't. And you didn't deserve." "Stop," I said, quiet but firm. The line went dead still. "You don't get to rewrite it now," I said. "You chose him. You chose lying. You chose this." "I know," she whispered. You missed the life you could have had," I said. "Not me." It came out harder than I intended, but it was true. And it felt good, sharp and clean, to finally say it out loud. She didn't argue. Didn't beg. Maybe because, deep down, she knew it too. "I'm working on myself," she said after a long pause. "I'm trying to get better." I closed my eyes. Took a breath. "I hope you do," I said. And I meant it. Not for her. Not because I wanted her back. But because people don't heal by staying broken. She deserved the chance to fix herself. Just not with me. Never with me again. She sniffled, one last pathetic sound, and said, "Goodbye, Evan." I didn't say it back. Just ended the call. Let the silence swallow her whole. Afterward, I sat there on the balcony, staring out at the city breathing under the setting sun. I thought maybe I'd feel sad, regretful, angry. But all I felt was relief. Real, bone-deep relief. Because hearing her voice? It was like looking at a house you almost bought. The one that had termites you didn't see at the open house. The one that would have collapsed with you inside if you hadn't walked away. You don't grieve a bullet you dodged. You thank God you moved fast enough. That night, Kyle dragged me to another dive bar. This one was quieter. Older crowd. Good jukebox. We nursed beers and talked about nothing, baseball stats, stupid TikToks, whose truck needed new tires. Normal life. Real life. And somewhere between the second and third beer, I noticed a woman sitting 2 tables over. Laughing. Not fake, polite laughter. Real laughter. The kind that fills a room without even trying. She caught me looking once. Smiled, wide, open, unafraid. I smiled back. Didn't rush. Didn't overthink. A part of me hesitated, not because she wasn't worth the risk, but because I wasn't sure if I was. But healing doesn't wait for certainty. It waits for courage. Just finished my beer, paid the tab, and walked over to say hi. Her name was Brooke. She hated olives but loved bad horror movies. Worked at a nonprofit. Had a crooked front tooth she never bothered fixing because she thought it gave her character. In 20 minutes, she told me more real things about herself than my almost wife ever had in 2 years. And when she laughed again, I realized something. The past doesn't get to have you if you don't let it. The people who hurt you, the ones who lied, They don't own your future unless you hand it to them. I wasn't handing mine over. Not anymore. Brooke asked if I wanted to sit down. I did. And for the first time in a long, long time, it wasn't about forgetting someone else. It was about seeing what's next. What could still be built? What was waiting if I was brave enough to reach for it? It didn't happen all at once. Healing never does. It wasn't some grand moment where the clouds parted and angels sang and suddenly I felt whole again. It was slower, quieter, more honest. It was mornings where I woke up and didn't think of her first. It was evenings where I didn't replay every mistake like a movie stuck on loop. It was realizing I could laugh again, a real, deep laugh, without it tasting bitter. Brooke and I took it slow. No rushing. No pretending. Just two people figuring out if they fit. And God, was it different? No second-guessing. No walking on eggshells. No half-truths whispered in the dark. She was honest even when it was hard. Especially when it was hard. And standing next to her, learning who she really was, not who I wanted her to be, I realized how much I had settled before. How much I had begged someone to stay who was already halfway out the door. One evening, about 6 months after the almost wedding, Brooke and I sat on my balcony. The same spot where I once sat, wrecked and hollow, after that phone call. But tonight was different. Tonight there was laughter. Tonight there was light. She curled her feet under her and sipped her wine, watching the city flicker alive below us. You ever think about how we almost miss the good stuff because we're too busy chasing the wrong stuff? She asked. I smiled. Because yeah, I thought about it a lot. I almost married someone who didn't love me enough to stay, I said. I thought that was just how it worked. That love was supposed to hurt a little. Brooke tilted her head. And now, I turned to her. Now I know love isn't supposed to feel like survival. She didn't say anything. Just smiled, soft and sure, and reached across the small table to take my hand. Her touch wasn't desperate. Wasn't possessive. It was steady. The kind of touch that says, I'm here. I'm not leaving. And you don't have to earn it. Later that night, after she fell asleep curled against me, I thought about everything that had led me here. The betrayal, the collapse, the grief. And for the first time, I didn't feel anger, or bitterness, or even sadness. I felt gratitude. Because every wrong turn, every broken promise, every sleepless night had brought me here. Had stripped me down to the bone. Had forced me to figure out who I was when there was no one left to lie to, not even myself. And the man I found under all the wreckage? He was worth saving. He was worth building a life around. Not because he was perfect. Not because he never made mistakes. But because he finally knew what he deserved. The next morning, I got up early and sat out on the balcony alone, watching the city wake up. The sky was just starting to bleed pink at the edges. The world smelled like rain and asphalt and something new. Brooke stirred inside, soft, sleepy sounds, and I smiled to myself. Not because everything was perfect. Not because I had it all figured out. But because for the first time in a long time, I wasn't living in the shadow of what almost was. I was living in what was. Real. Messy. Beautiful. Mine. And that was something worth keeping.